Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren.
Today we are here for a bonus episode. We are also celebrating our 3-year anniversary as a podcast.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Woo!
Crazy to think it's been 3 years.
I know, it's really weird to think it's been 3 years. I feel like it doesn't feel like that. And then
I've had 2 children in that amount of time, guys.
Right? Like
Isn't that crazy?
We started with one microphone between the three of us, all in the same room.
Yep.
To legit mics.
Yep. Legit microphones and
separate,
recording across the country from each other. Yeah.
That part makes me a little sad, though.
Well,
I know.
Yeah. It was fun at the beginning when we were all sitting in the same room, huddled around the same mic recording.
Although that's not really technically how you're supposed to do that, I found out.
No, and if you listen to those early episodes, or if you have listened to those early episodes, it's pretty rough. You can also, and this is nothing against Barbara at the beginning, but you can also see as our podcast has gone on, because Barbara's our editor, for those of you that don't know that, the quality of the edits have gotten better and better and better and better.
Well, yeah, I learned how to use the program.
Go on as you got better at using the program. Yeah,
it's because Barbara's a badass.
Well,
she is.
Yeah.
But anyway, to our listeners, thank you for coming with us to this point. To new listeners, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll be here for another 3 years. But this bonus review, or this bonus episode rather, is going to just be us kind of talking about and reminiscing over the last 3 years, some of our favorite books we've read on the podcast, some favorite moments of the show. Just going to it'll be a short bonus episode just talking about us and celebrating our anniversary. So I want to start off with kind of an easy question that I thought was relevant for this. But so what were your top 3 books that you've read for the podcast? Not in any particular order, so we can just do round robin.
What does that mean?
Like we do for the questions. Like Barbara will give a book.
How is that? What is that called?
Round robin.
Round robin?
Round robin. Yep.
What is... Oh, interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that, which isn't surprising. I haven't heard a lot of these type of... What is that called? A saying or...
Idiom.
Idioms. I haven't heard that one.
But yeah, I was going to say we go round robin the way we always do for the questions, which means that Barbara will go first.
Oh, okay. I'm just going based off of what I've given a high rating to. Luckily, I have a list. So I think my first ever 9 that I gave out was for Gideon the Ninth, I believe, if our track record of notes is to be believed. So that would be my first pick because it was my first 9. And you always remember your first 9.
Oh, it's me next, isn't it?
It's so embarrassing.
Embarrassing. I'm like pointing at Lauren, like, come on,
for
do something.
The record, I'm not editing this one unless it's like really bad needing to edit. But
that's appropriate.
Also,
for this
Michael, you were frozen on my computer too, so I didn't see you.
Oh, that's funny. So
he was aggressively pointing.
You come on.
Aggressively.
Anyway. So the first one I'll mention that was a favorite. It was Name of the Wind. I had been wanting to read that book for such a long time. I had it on my shelf, and I think like 3 listeners. This was forever ago. But like 3 listeners requested we read it. I was super excited, and Barbara was not super excited because she was not so keen on reading it. And I think Lauren actually got out of it because we read
it was her
Name
first
of the
pregnancy
Wind when she gave birth to her first child. Yeah, so she did not have to read it. But that's at least one of my top 3. I really enjoyed that book. I'm still, for those listeners out there who are still asking that we read the sequel, I'm working on Barbara so that we can read the sequel.
Well,
Lauren won't have to. It'll have to be an episode where Lauren
read it. Yeah,
it'll have to be an episode where Lauren is otherwise not going to be on the podcast.
I'm curious to know: do listeners actually want to hear me review the second book? I wasn't too nice about the first book. That's why it makes me interested to see why people want me to read the second one. Is it just to spite me? Because I feel like you actors are like that.
I feel like
people
it's
have
just
asked for it.
You.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fact that the first one, even though you did not give anything near a glowing review, it's one of our most popular episodes. So,
yeah, it's not that I didn't give it it's fine. It's just I don't like the way he wrote women.
So we'll add the sequel, and then we'll add it with Lauren. Lauren will just have to read 2 large books that month.
Nope. That's not happening.
Or she can just read the second one, be like
and
totally
be super
lost.
confused.
Be super confused. That sounds more.
What is going on, guys?
Anyway, Lauren, what is your first book?
Ocean at the End of the Lane.
You did really like that one.
I really liked that book. Yeah, I don't give a shit what anybody else says. I really liked it. It was one that kind of lingered with me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
It's one that I, from time to time, I catch myself thinking about in a depressing way. Because I feel like it was a very somber...
It was.
I feel like it's like your childhood ending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those types of books. I don't know, but
It was somber, but it was so well written.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hell of a writer.
Yeah,
so
it was so haunting. I was just like,
that's a very good word that I would use for that book. It's just one of those that I have to agree with you. It definitely lingers because I do catch myself from time to time thinking about it, and I'm just like, the hell.
Yeah, it was a really good book. Barbara, what's your next one?
Let's see here. My other 9 was for Legendborn, which is another one that Lauren did not read, but I would highly recommend. Lauren, I really liked it. Just the characters. When I tell you I'm so excited for the second one, I am like so excited.
I was going to say, conveniently, if Lauren does read it, then we could review the podcast, or the second book with everybody.
Yeah, but I know you don't have a lot of time, so... But it's just so good. I really enjoyed everything about it, like the lore and anyways. But yeah, that would be my other pick.
It's kind of a toss up for me on what I was going to pick for my next one. I'm going to say my second pick of the top 3 would be, I'm going to do the Realmbreaker series as a whole. We've done the first 2 books as bonus. One bonus and one normal episode, both with Leah from the YA Book Chat podcast. For my first book, Victoria Aveyard, I've loved it. I still haven't read The Red Queen. I know that's sitting on our shelf over there, but
I own them all. Yeah,
I really liked both of the Realmbreaker books.
Yeah, they're good. I obviously like them.
No comment.
I know. I was like, Lauren hasn't read these.
Nope.
What about you, Lauren?
Oh, my next book was Cinder. These aren't in order, right?
It's just whatever one. Yeah. Mine isn't in a particular order.
I put them like in order on my phone, like 1, 2, 3, but I wasn't like thinking about Cinder. I really liked Cinder. It's one that I felt some shame for being in my top 3 because it's like a YA. And I think that's stupid that we have been conditioned as adults to feel shame for liking YA books.
I love YA books.
I really like YA, and this was a good one. And I also enjoyed getting to do the collab that we did on
with
Cinder.
Bethany.
Yeah. So
from the
pod,
Prince Kai fan club.
Fan club, that's right. Yeah. So
I think it's Prince Kai fan pod, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's a pod in it.
I think it's Prince Kai fan pod, but I really liked the collaboration that we got to do with her. I really enjoyed Cinder in general. I thought it was well written. Obviously, it's won awards and various other things. So that was one that, but for the podcast purposes, I felt like with that collaboration and with like all the build up to it, it was just kind of a fun one.
It really was. I enjoyed it.
Agreed. I did too.
Which is funny because I was debating putting that on my list. But now that I don't know. See, that's the problem. Like, a third one is hard for me to pick because I have a lot of other ones that kind of are on there. Like, Cinder is one of them. But you've already mentioned it, so I'm not sure if I should just repeat it too.
It is your turn to pick a third one.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
we can overlap. We can like the same things.
Yeah. And then Michael said Bladebreaker, so I really like those books as well. So, I mean, the only one that's not considered YA on my list is Gideon the Ninth. All the other ones are YA. So I'm not embarrassed anymore to say I love YA. I love YA. It holds a special place in my heart, and I'm totally for it. So I don't know. I feel like it's a toss-up, really. And one that honestly I feel like I rated it and kind of I am upset with myself for rating it lower is City of Brass. Because I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of disappointed myself for I gave it an 8, but like looking back, I feel like I would give it a much higher score now than what I did back then after it sat with me for a while. So maybe that one, but I don't know. Yeah, I have too many changes for my last one. I don't know. So all the ones I mentioned.
My last one's going to be one you probably would not have expected me to pick, but it's going to be Dear Monica.
Mm.
It was kind of a surprise book for me. So we Dear Monica was one that we had sent to us by the author Sam DeVell, and we also had an opportunity to interview him for the podcast, which was a lot of fun to hang out and talk to him about the book. But I really enjoyed it. I remember when we got it and I opened it and I was like, this is such a strange format. And it was like, because it was all letters. But I really enjoyed it. I ended up just like digesting that book so quickly. And you know, I think we told Sam in the interview whatever he read or wrote next, we'd love to read it. And that still stands. I really liked that book. Was not expecting to love it when we got a copy, but I really liked it.
It's one of those books I went through all the emotions. Because at first I thought this dude was a creep, and then you find out like that is not the case and how it was. And I think that was the first book of the recording that I actually teared up at the end. Like I have a very distinct memory of being like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So that's a good pick.
No cry.
I was in the other room and just heard Barbara.
No, you did not. You're such a liar. You're such a liar.
Yeah, I liked Dear Monica. I thought, and I kind of forgot about that. I'm not sure how I managed to forget about that, but that was a cool experience getting to actually interview the author. If you guys haven't listened to that episode, I think that was definitely a fun one. My next one was the Alice Network. I really liked the Alice Network. I don't know what it was about it, whether it was like the kind of marrying of history and, you know, kind of the multiple genres, but yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
I remember enjoying it. I liked the characters and stuff.
Yeah, the characters were just such a badass.
I also really liked the Alice Network. I thought it was very interesting, the historical fiction side of it and everything too. Cool to think about that stuff being all, you know, mostly a true story, right?
Yeah, cray.
What do you mean mostly a true story?
Well, it's historical fiction, so not every single part of it is true. Isn't at the Alice Network historical fiction?
No.
I mean, it's historical fiction in the sense it's based off the World War.
Yeah,
but like the characters aren't real, if that's what you mean, or they're not based off.
No, I don't think
they're not. No, I mean they're based off the actual real women that actually did the Alice Network, but I don't believe the only real character was the lady who ran the Alice Network.
Okay.
I believe she's the only real character. I think the other ones weren't. They're what is it called?
Fictionalized.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Well, just kidding. I thought. Yeah, I did really enjoy that book. That was another. I think that was actually the last time we did a giveaway. The person who won picked that book. I'm pretty sure we sent someone that book. Was the book they?
Oh, really?
They picked, yeah. Because there was the contest was like to pick a book was on our schedule, and that was the one that she picked.
Books that you guys were looking forward to, and it did not deliver, or a book, I guess.
I want to let you go first, Barbara, because you picked it first.
Oh, okay.
Because I have the same one as you as one of mine, so
a book that I was really looking forward to, and it did not deliver, and I'm still really bitter about it, if you can't tell, is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Because so many people were talking about how first off, how good that book was and how great the author was and blah, blah, blah. And I should just take the author away from this. I'm just looking at that book in particular. I was so disappointed with that book. So disappointed to the point where I'm not reading any of the other books, even though they all sound really, really good. Like The Final Girls, I think is one of them, or something like that, or like My Best Friend is a Monster, or like stuff like that. Like if you read the back of the books to his books, like they're everything that I want in a book. And I just feel like I'm going to be just disappointed in the other books. I really don't want to touch them. But to say that I disliked that would be nice of a saying, because I was just really, really looking forward to it. And it just all kinds of it. I didn't like one aspect of that book, to be honest with you. And my rating, I feel like I gave it a nicer score than I actually wanted to. So that's definitely one of mine.
Yeah, that was one of mine too. I was thinking about, or I was trying to think about which ones, because like there were some that I weren't looking forward to, like I wasn't looking forward to, and I also didn't like. So I was like, oh well, I knew I wasn't gonna like that one. But the vampire one, I was agreeing with Barbara on, like as far as being excited to read it and then just being really disappointed. And then the other one that made my list was Priory of the Orange Tree. And that one just definitely had a lot of hype around it and then just kind of fell short for me. So
I was just promised dragons, and I feel like there was not enough dragons in it. That's my only issue.
I disagree. I liked Priory, but
I did too. I'm not saying I didn't like it. Obviously I did. I actually really enjoyed it, but I wanted more dragons. So I'm actually really excited for the prequel. Like I'm actually very, very excited for the prequel, and I'm hoping there's going to be more dragons. So
as easy as it would be for me to just lump on the Vampire Slayer book, because I also didn't like it, as those who know who listen to the podcast, I don't think any of us did, but I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going to say, for me, Magic for Liars. It was an early
that was
episode,
another one too,
which was an old episode we did, episode 5 of season 1. And I want to preface this by saying I didn't dislike Magic for Liars in the same way that we all disliked the vampire book. But it was something like with Barbara's question, like I was really looking forward to it. It was one we were all really excited to read. And then it didn't fall flat in the sense that it was like, oh, it was awful. Like, but it was just kind of meh. Like I didn't love it like I thought I was going to.
I liked Magic for Liars.
See, yeah, I would say my thing is it would be like I buy a certain type of chocolate and I was expecting it to taste one way and it tasted a different way. So I was expecting it to be a certain type of book and it was a different type of book where it didn't focus on the magic like I wanted. Just like Priory of the Orange Tree, like I was promised dragons because of the beautiful cover of that book. And yes, there are dragons, but is there enough dragons for someone like me? No. The answer is no. There's not enough dragons. I want more dragons. And for this one, I was expecting more of the magic or maybe even a magic system, and we got a little hints of it, and the hints that we got I really enjoyed. It just, I was expecting a different type of a book, and I feel like that's kind of where the disconnect for me was. I still enjoyed the book overall, and even like thinking back by it, I don't have the same like bleh thinking of vampire looking at you type thing. Right. I was expecting, I think, something and it wasn't what I was expecting.
I love that analogy though.
What, the chocolate?
I'm going to use the chocolate thing now because it's like, no chocolate is bad chocolate, really. I mean, maybe if you put some weird stuff in there or something, but it's like, it's not like it sucked. It's just a different.
Right. It would be if I gave you a chocolate and said, hey, this is caramel chocolate. And you're like, okay. And you bite into it and it's peanut toffee or something. And you're like, okay, this is not gross. It's just, I was expecting the caramel one. So you kind of get yourself hyped up for a caramel chocolate. And instead you got, toffee chocolate. And you're like,
literally my experience every time I eat like out of a box of chocolates, like,
you just never know.
Because you just never know what you're gonna get. Even if you just a picture guide.
I think that's a good description of it.
What about one that you weren't looking forward to or a little meh about, and it actually surprised you and you really enjoyed it?
100% Elantris. That was the first, like, that was when we were still recording all together in Barbara's basement.
Yep.
With her dog, like with the dogs.
That was like a cluster.
It was fun. But Elantris, Michael freaking picks this book that's like,
yeah, because this is before we had listeners to pick books for us.
Yeah.
Okay, this was when we decided, like, okay, you're going to pick one, I'm going to pick one, Michael's going to pick one, whatever. Well, Barbara and I both picked reasonably sized books, and then Michael decided he was going to pick Elantris, which was, I mean, giant book, not comparison to others, but a very large book for someone who doesn't even, like
fantasy,
like that genre.
For context, I picked that because I had been wanting to read something by Brandon Sanderson, and that was his shortest book that wasn't like
can you imagine
book of a trilogy or something.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I think technically, Barbara, the Mistborn one was shorter, but that was like book 1 of like 6 books, so that didn't make sense to me. But
I was not looking forward to it. I was dreading it, in fact. I was like mad at Michael for picking it because it was so long, and it just like the description sounded so like freaking so out there. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I started reading it, and once I got like, it was a slow burn for me. So I like originally when I started reading it, I was pissed at Michael. I was like, I hate this. This is stupid. And then I got about like, I don't know, a third of the way in, and I was like, okay, I'm invested now. And by the time I finished it, I actually really enjoyed it. The world building and like the characters, and even like all the fantasy weird ass like out there things. So yeah, that was definitely one that I was like really not looking forward to, and ended up being probably it's probably in my top 8 of books that we've read for the pod.
Yeah.
He is writing a sequel, Lauren.
Well, maybe somebody can recommend it eventually.
Yeah. Michael?
So
this is a side note. We did decide after a few really long books like this that we were going to put a limit.
Yes, a page limit.
A page limit. Unless we all agree on a larger book, there was going to be a page limit.
Because some of us now have children.
The exception there was, well, the limit's not so much in place anymore, though, because now we're relying on listener picks. And if a listener picks a really long book,
yeah.
Well, have we had one that's super long like that, though?
No.
I didn't think we have.
I mean, you and I Name of the Wind was a listener pick, Barbara, that you and I read, and that was like 8 or 9
Right, but that
pages.
was before, because I think it was after the prior The Orange Tree and Name of the Wind that were 2 back-to-back very long books that we decided that we were going to at least try to limit it or make it more reasonable. Like, if a listener does pick a longer book, then we kind of shift things around and pick one the previous month, so it's a little bit shorter, so we have a longer time to read it. Because
now,
like
I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm just going to throw it out there. You know, we all have jobs and, you know, families and things like this. But if you guys, you know, really want to ramp up your reviews and your listening things, and if we can get paid to podcast, then I'll read all the Brandon Sanderson and all of the long books, because I'll have all the time. But yes, it's the page limit is nice when you're juggling a lot of stuff to try and get.
See, I don't have children, so I don't have to worry about that.
That's true.
I get more free time than you do.
I have, when you have, and if my kids were older, it'd be different too. But I've got like a 2-year-old and then a 7-week-old. So
yeah, it's a little bit harder.
Yes.
So I'm going to say for my book for this category it's a hard one. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
You were looking forward to
so
that.
I like V.E. Schwab, and we've read a lot of her fantasy novels. The Gathering of Shadows, Darker Shade of Magic series, and I'm looking forward to reading her other series, the Villains. But Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I remember when Barbara was first like super excited about it, and she had me read the jacket cover. And
you're like me.
It didn't sound like something I was going to hate, but it didn't sound like something that I immediately, like her other books that I was like super excited to read.
Mm-hmm.
And so I approached it not necessarily with like this is going to suck, but kind of like I knew I was going to like the writing because I love the way that she writes and her writing style. I was a little meh on the story and the theme and that, but I really ended up liking that book.
I thought that we all were looking forward to that one. I didn't realize, Michael, that you were not.
Because I remember.
You guys were.
Right, but when I remember I showed it to him, I was like, hey, like, you know, a lot of people are recommending this book, and he read the back. I can normally tell when he's like really gung-ho for her, and he's just trying to be polite, and it was definitely trying to be polite.
He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. But it's definitely one of her books that doesn't fall in her normal type of a genre, and I think she's even mentioned that it was one of those that she wasn't sure if people would like just because it's so different from her other writings.
Yeah.
And obviously I think she was a successful writer, but I feel like this one really blew up for her on TikTok, and which is I'm so happy for her. So it's funny that you felt that way. I kind of had a sinking suspicion that you did feel that way because of the way you first responded.
It was one of those I didn't approach it like Lauren did with Elantris, where she was coming in like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I'm pissed that Michael picked this. Like, I didn't feel like that. I just, I wasn't sold on it. Like, it wasn't one where I was like, the month where I'm like, yes, I can't wait to read this. Like, it was not that book for me. It was fine. I really liked it, but my initial reaction to it was like,
and you ended up really liking it, right?
I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I liked that one. I mean,
I did too.
But I was also looking forward to it, so.
I was, very much looking forward to it. I'm excited for I think it's a movie that's going to be coming out.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was on my TBR list for quite some time.
Yeah. Mine would be 13.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
I really enjoyed it, more so than I thought I was. It's kind of the same where the genre is one that I pick up not as often as I used to. I actually have noticed. Which is weird. I used to read this more when I was younger, which is it's really weird. I used to read a lot more adult novels as a kid. And now it's switched, and I'm not quite sure if there's something mentally wrong with me. I'm sure there is. Let's be honest, a lot wrong with me. But not really sure why I did that. But I used to read more of those types of books when I was younger. And I kind of have stopped, I've noticed, picking up those types of books. And for this one, it wasn't that I wasn't super looking forward to it. It was just one of those where I was just like, oh, I'm sure it'll just be fine. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, surprisingly, the cast of characters, how the story interweaved, and he wrote such a creepy ass antagonist, like so well written, and I really enjoyed reading his perspective in the book. So it's definitely one that actually surprised me. Not that, like I said, not that I wasn't looking forward to it. I was just kind of like, whatever. And then it really, really surprised me that I really enjoyed it. And it's one of those that I really want to pick up the rest of the series, and hopefully that won't spoil the liking of it.
I was going to say, you were ready to go pick up like the whole series after that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have like 300 TBR books and not enough time in the world.
Right. I saw something on TikTok the other day that like it was like a person laying in their bed, like presumably like deceased, unalived, and like a giant stack of books next to them, and it's like me dying before I can read all of my books on my TBR list, and I'm like, oh,
so true.
That's probably gonna be. I have so many.
Mm-hmm. I buy so many and then never. If I could get paid to read, that would be the ideal job.
I know.
Yeah,
right?
That would be nice.
Same.
I would be happy.
I would just say, not even just paid to read. If I could get paid to consume media that I like.
Well, yeah, yours is different. I don't care. Like, I don't want to get paid to watch movies.
Movies,
like,
TV
I would
shows,
get
reading,
I would
video
get
games.
People do get paid to review things.
I know, but like, I feel like you have to be a good reviewer and stuff like that. I don't feel like. I mean, I guess we have a podcast for it.
We are professional.
I would say
reviewers.
That's us, Barbara. Barbara, you're fired.
I'm fired. It was my idea. Screw you guys.
I guess you have to be good.
Help wanted editor for podcast.
Right. Barbara's just sitting over here like telling us we suck, basically.
I feel like this is just like, I love doing this. I just don't. It's weird to think I don't consider we're not professionals.
No,
you know what I mean. You don't.
We're amateur. We're amateur reviewers. Amateur critics.
We do it for fun.
So that's what I meant by that. I mean, it would be awesome if we got paid to do this. Those are ideal. Like, I would love that.
But, if the podcast would blow up, we could. We could at least make money. To produce more content.
True.
That's true.
So at this point, I do want to throw a special shout out to all of our listeners that are out there. I know some of you have been around since back at the beginning of these 3 years when we embarked on this journey, and some of you are just finding our show or maybe found an episode by searching for a book you were excited to read. No matter how you ended up here, we're excited that you're here. And if you are listening right now to this episode, we are going to be doing a giveaway.
Anniversary giveaway.
To enter the giveaway, there will be an Instagram post about this episode on our profile. And what you'll need to do is like that photo and then comment a purple heart emoji. Mm-hmm. So again, like the photo, comment a purple heart emoji so we know that you entered the contest from listening to the episode. And for a bonus entry, you can also tag a friend in your comment, and that'll get you 2 entries. And then at some point next month, more likely, we'll do a drawing, and we'll announce the winner in our bonus episode in November.
Tell them what they're gonna get, Michael.
They are Barbara. They're gonna get some badass Literature Society swag. Mm-hmm. Is what they're gonna get.
Yes, that
will be coming up then. So yeah, go on the Instagram, comment a Purple Heart, tag a friend for an extra entry. Let's be specific. But yeah, giveaways aside, we are all very grateful for those of you that do choose to give us your time and recommend books for us to read. There are so many books that I think that at least one of us of the trio would never have probably picked up if it wasn't for this podcast and wasn't for you guys recommending it to us. So
yeah, like 13. Like I would have never. Yeah. I didn't even know about it. Some of these, like we do, obviously, especially if you're on Book Talk and stuff, you definitely see some of these. But those more obscure ones and stuff.
But 13, fun. Like I love that genre, but I probably wouldn't have picked up that book. It's not like it was an older book,
right?
Same with The Life We Bury, that one we just read. Like that's probably not one I would have picked up, but I enjoyed that book too.
I really liked that one.
Lauren would have never read Brandon Sanderson if it wasn't for me picking Elantris back in the day when we were still.
That is accurate. I would have been like, no.
But I'm pretty sure you would read another one of his books if it came out.
Probably not just a general Brandon Sanderson, but I would read a sequel if there was a sequel to that one.
Well, but yet Elantris is just part of like all of his books take place in the single universe.
If I could wrap my head around like how long some of his books are. My thing is like I do audiobooks because just I don't have time. So I listen to them when I'm like getting ready, or I listen to them when I'm, trying to have nap time happen, or when I'm driving or whatever. And some of those books were like 50 hours long or something.
So that's an exaggeration, Lauren. So right now I'm reading and listening to Words of Radiance, which is book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. And it's like a 1,300 page book. And the audiobook is 37 hours. So it's not 50 hours long. Okay, it's long. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long book. To put that in perspective, the last book that I read for one of my book clubs that I'm in was 8 hours.
And to be honest, Lauren, if you were asking for if you were like, Michael, I want to read another Brandon Sanderson book, which one should I read? It wouldn't be that serious because
he's got some young adult ones I think that she would like.
He does, but I think she would like
shorter.
I think she would like Mistborn too, the one that you and I read.
I feel like do the young adult one because it's shorter.
Mistborn wasn't that long, was it?
It's like 400, isn't it?
That's like 400 pages.
That is decently long, Michael, for some people who aren't. For Michael, I don't think you understand. For people who don't read fantasy, that is a long book. Most books that aren't fantasy or high fantasy, I guess this would be considered, are anywhere from 3 to 350, I would say, is the max. I don't think most books are that long.
And I think that, obviously, if there's a book that I'm really into, I will invest however much time is necessary. But if I don't know that I'm going to like a book, it's hard for me to commit to 37 hours of my life.
What if you're 12 hours in and you're frickin' this book.
Exactly.
I have another 24 hours left. That's a long. Yeah, I agree. I understand where the point of view where you're coming from.
Well, I think we've gotten to that point in the episode where we.
Is that it?
I think it's time to wrap up. Yeah,
short and sweet. Then.
Let me just insert something. Harry Potter.
And let's dive in. No, but yeah. So seriously, thank you guys so much for being here, for listening to our show, for all the things you do. We appreciate it. And I think Barbara has a little bit of a stinger for us now.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's kind of weird for you to say that. I was just gonna say, if you also have questions just in general for us, comment away. We'll be happy to do random bonus episodes where we just talk, I guess,
about whatever.
Unless y'all don't want to hear us, in which case, why are you listening to us? If you
somebody's going to comment, no more episodes of you guys just talking.
Probably. To each their own. Sometimes you just, you want to hear your dang book and see if you want to invest 36 hours in it or not. And I guess we're your people for that.
True.
As far as listening to audiobooks, I just can't do that.
I used to be that person. I didn't even like to read on a Kindle for the longest time. I needed like the paper. I needed to feel it. I wanted to see the cover. I wanted it to be on my shelf. And then life happened. And then I switched to Kindle as life got busier, like in college and like life immediately after college. And then I was like, oh, Kindle, I don't have like books on my shelf. I mean, I have a lot of books that I still buy, but I can't fill the pages or whatever. And then I had children, and now I'm just like, you know what? If I can read it all, this is how it's going to do it. Like, cause I just don't have time. And so I succumbed to the audiobook culture of busy momhood. And I've found that I either really like it or really dislike it based on the person's voice, which is hard because I feel like when you're reading a book, even on a Kindle, like it's your own voice, like, or you're picturing, you're like imagining the voices of the characters, but it can really take you out of like the story if the audiobook reader sucks at like their voice, like if you just don't click with their voice.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I dislike about the current way that I'm having to read books, but I get over it.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for today's bonus episode. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us talk about and reminisce over the last 3 years of our podcast together. And we look forward to many, many more years of doing this.
Right. And I say comment on which one was your favorite book that we've done, or maybe your least favorite book that we've done, or answered the questions that we answered and put the comments of your guys's. That'd be fun. Yeah. What that is. Anyways, have feedback about today's episode. You can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook.
Make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they'll allow you to. That's really important. It helps our podcast get visibility. Plus, we love seeing what you guys have to say about what we do. Also, don't forget to be following us on social media. Our username is @BadassLitPod on both Instagram and Facebook. And with that, we'll see you guys later this month for our regular review.
Yep.
Bye.
Michael, what is
your
name?
What's your name?
You fool. It even says they're on there too. Jesus.
I'm Michael.
I'm gonna leave that on there so people can see how much editing I have to do, you guys. It's not simple work because of him and all the that he does.
I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
This is Lauren.
Bye.
Bye.